So in this recording, I will show a little more complex workflow using LlamaIndex Workflow. I continue to explore the feature of LlamaIndex Workflow. So what we will see in this recording, the implementation of a reflection pattern. So this is how the flow goes. So we'll have a start event. When a question is asked, the router takes a question. And if it is a physics question, it will generate a physics event, which will trigger the physics agent. Physics agent will provide a answer and will trigger a review event. The review event will call the review agent to review the answer of physics agent and will suggest improvements. So review agent will again, after reviewing the answer, it will trigger the physics event, which will again call or trigger the physics agent. The physics agent has now the feedback from the review agent. So based on the feedback, it will create the answer again. And this loop, the way I have coded it is like if, so I run it once. If after one attempt or after one feedback loop, it will go to the stop event and end the flow, right? Similarly, if it's a math answer, then it will the review agent will review it once and then it will go into the stop event, right? So we'll see how I have implemented it, and we'll see how I have drawn this workflow also using LlamaIndex Workflow. So the concepts that I used in workflow is the global context, use of global context, and then like the steps now can take more than one event, right? You will not find this example. I have not found this example actually in the LlamaIndex Workflow. So I spent some time to understand and then create this from the scratch, right? So let's go to the code and see how I have created it, right? So first of all, I created a math event. This event will trigger the math agent. It takes query as an attribute. Similarly, I have the physics event, which triggers the physics agent, and the review event, which triggers the review agent. The first step is my start event, right? This is my router, right? The router, based on what type of question, it will either return a math event or a physics event, right? So when I create the start event has two attributes: a query. What is the category of the query? So if the query is physics, I pass the category as physics. I could have actually inferred the category also based on an LLM, but I did not want to do that because that is easy, like you can do it. And I also like try to see wherever it is possible to be more deterministic, not to depend on LLM, right? Then it becomes more deterministic. So here the category I pass as one of the attributes of the start event. And then this is the global context. The purpose of global context is if I want to pass attributes or variables from one step to another step, I can push it in the context, and that context will be available across the steps. This looked similar to me as the shared state concept in LangGraph, right? So here I am storing the attempt number, right? So earlier I said that after one attempt, I don't send it to the review agent again. I just go to the stop event, right? So I'm storing the attempt. So first it is 0 attempt. I have not attempted it yet. Then I store the category also in the context. And then I check if the category is math. I call return the math event. If the category is physics, I do the physics event. Now, if it is a physics event, if the physics event is triggered, the physics agent gets wakes up with the physics event. The physics agent again can either return a review event for the review agent or a stop event if the attempt is more than if it's greater than one, then we go to the stop event, right? So here I take the attempt number from the context. I take the response also from the context and the feedback from the context, right? So we'll see this feedback. The review agent actually creates a feedback and puts in the context. And then I take the query from the physics event, right? This is my prompt. You are experienced physics teacher. Please provide an answer to the user query. And here I plug in the query. Please ensure to incorporate my incorporate any feedback provided for your response. And this is where I plug in the feedback. So first time there will be no feedback. This will be empty. First time attempt will be 0. This is where I check if it is more than one attempt. That means I have already sent the feedback to the review agent. I already have a feedback. And based on the first feedback, I improve the answer only once and then go to the stop event, right? Stop event, I provide the final response with the feedback. If it is the first attempt, right, then I increase the attempt number. I add that attempt to the context. I get the response from the physics agent. The response, again, I put it to the context because I want this response to be available to the review agent so that it can provide a feedback. And then I call the review event with the query. I pass the query, right? Then what happens in the review event is the review event gets triggered now. So when the review agent runs, it gets a category from the context, gets the query because I have passed the query as an attribute of the review event. I take the response from the context because when I run the physics agent, I put the response of the physics agent into the context. And this is my prompt. You are a reviewer of a response provided against a query. Please provide your feedback to improve the response. Below is the query and response of your review. So this is the query, this is the response. So this is where I get the feedback from the review agent. I put the feedback into the context so that it is available to the physics agent now. And then I see if the category that was passed was math, then I return the math event. If it is physics, then I return the physics event, right? Same thing I do for the math agent also. So I'll not go through it. It's the same approach, right? And finally, I have the main block where I create an instance of the teacher crew workflow, right? So I named this workflow as teacher crew, right? So I create an instance of the teacher crew. And this is what I have just shown you, right? This picture is, it drew the picture because I had this draw all possible flows. This is part of the LlamaIndex workflow, right? And I pass the teacher crew workflow and stored it in the HTML. Then I run the workflow. So this is a physics question. So I say, what is reflection? And the category is physics, in the workflow. And then I can also create the most recent execution. So here we'll not see all the paths that it is taken. So this, since it is a physics question, right, it will take the physics path, right? So this one, draw most recent execution, will have the physics path. Right? So let me run this and then we will see both the HTMLs. Right? So let me run it. So this is the physics question. So the HTML got created. This is the same HTML as this one. So attempt number 1, there was no feedback. This was the response, right? Now attempt number 2, right? In the attempt number 2, it has a feedback. This was the feedback that was passed to the attempt number 2. This was the response. And finally, with this response, and so if you see the first response was this, but with the feedback, it has actually elaborated the answer, right? And finally, the final response is what I execute or I print it here. This is my file and response with the final feedback, right? And the recent run is stored here. So let us look at the recent run also. We already looked at the all possible flows we already looked at here, but this is the recent run, right? If I open this in the browser, so this is the beautiful, right? Okay, so let me make it a little bigger, right? So start event, it went to the router. Router created the physics event, called the physics agent. The physics agent called the review agent. Review agent called the review event. Review event called the review agent, which gave it back to the physics agent. Physics agent called the review agent, right? Then the review agent gave it the physics agent since it is more than one. Um, so one thing um, so this is something that may be a bug, right? I should have a stop event also, right? So this picture may not be totally correctly drawn, right? So after the physics agent, it should have shown me the stop event, right? Because it goes to the stop event. So the all flow was correct, but it is still, I'll not say it is uh, completely wrong. It still says start event to router, router to physics event to review agent gives it back to the physics agent, right? And then the review agent it is one more time, right? It actually then stops the run. Yeah, but the stop event should have been there. It would have made it more clear. But that is what I wanted to show. This is a more complex run of the workflow, complex example of the LlamaIndex workflow, which shows both the use of the global context and how we can actually um, use multiple events, and based on conditions, we can generate one event versus the other event. That's all I wanted to show as part of this recording. Thank you.